Another way of using the output of the modified Jones model is to use it in predicting the level of earnings management of another year or period. We do this through what is typically called an event study. We start by presenting the dataset we are using in our example. We have 6 years of data for each of the 53 firms in the sample. Like all the previous illustrations, we will still have the same variables specified in the model: the net income, cash flow from operations, gross revenues, accounts receivable, property, plant and equipment, and total assets. Then we compute the lag assets, lag revenues and receivables, 1-year delta or change in revenues and receivables, and the total accruals. Finally, we compute the scaled value of total accruals: 1. The difference between the delta of revenues and receivables, scaled property, plant and equipment, and the return on assets. But before we do the regression, let's do a little review. In an event study, we want to know if earnings management is any different because of the occurrence of an event. So it is important to first identify the cutoff point, separate the event period from the rest. In our example, the event occurred in year 5 and 6. These 2 years belong to the event period. It also means that the years before the event, years 1 to 4, are the stable periods. What we want is to use the stable period to estimate the abnormal accruals had the event not occurred. The reason is that we believe that the stable period can better provide information of what is expected in the succeeding years. Think of it like forecasting. We take the data from the past to predict the performance in the future. Review that in the modified Jones model, the residual or the error term represents the abnormal accruals. Therefore, this part of the model estimates the normal accruals. The idea is we use the model to estimate the coefficients that are considered normal, and the best way to estimate the coefficients of a normal accrual is to use the stable period. We bring the estimated coefficients to the event period, and this will help us predict the residuals of the event period. Next, we will illustrate how this is done in SPSS. First thing to do is to separate the periods, estimation, and event. Go to Data, then select Cases. Click the If button. We want to filter the data sets and include only the estimation years. We no longer need year 1 because this was only used for the lag values. What we want are years 2, 3, and 4. Type in the box year equals 2, space, or, space, year equals 3, space, or, space, year equals 4, then click Continue. Under Output, click Copy selected cases to a new dataset and type any name to identify it. I want to call it Estimation, then click OK. Now check that the new dataset only has 3 years per firm. You can now minimize or close the window for the old dataset with all the complete years. We will need this later. In the new estimation dataset, run the usual regression, analyze, regression, linear. Place the variables to the appropriate boxes. Next, click Save. Check the unstandardized residuals, then look down for the Export Model Information to XML file. Then click Browse to select the location where you want to save the XML file. The XML file will hold the coefficient estimates, which we will later use for the event period. I will select Desktop in here, then name the file coefficients. Click Save. Click Continue, then OK. Two things just happened. In my desktop, there is a new file called coefficient.xml, and my dataset I have a new column called Resid. We need to copy this together with the firm and year column to a new spreadsheet. Just like this. Now you can close and disregard the estimation dataset. Let's move to the event period. Back to the original dataset, we do the same thing to filter only the event years 5 and 6. We will name this as event. Now click OK. In the new event dataset, we bring in the XML file. From Utilities, select Scoring Wizard. Look for the XML file, then click Done. You should see a new column called Predicted Value. Copy this together with the firm and year columns to the spreadsheet file. Paste this right below the estimation data. You can disregard and close the event dataset. Copy these three columns from the spreadsheet to a new dataset. These are all we need for the next step. In a new dataset, in order to compare the estimation residuals and event residuals, we can have either restructure the data from long to wide form, or an easier option is to recode the year variable into just two periods, period 1 and period 2. To do this, go to Transform, then select Recode into different variable. Move the variable year to the box on the right, then change the variable name to period. Click Change. Now go to the Old and New Values button. The old values 5 and 6 will be changed to period 2, while the rest of the values 2, 3, and 4 will be changed to period 1. We have the new categories for the periods. We now compare the means and standard deviations of the two periods and check whether there is a statistical difference. Go to Analyze, Compare Means and Means. Move period to the independent list and the residuals to the dependent list. Now click Options. Make sure that the mean and standard deviations are in the right-hand box. Then check the ANOVA tables box. Click Continue, then OK. The output document will show us the following tables. Let's inspect the standard deviation and the residuals. Notice that there is a slight increase in the standard deviation from the estimation period to the event period, an indication that earnings management is higher in the event period. Many suspect that external factors may influence the levels of earnings management. In this case, this is the occurrence of the event, like an investigation, a new regulation or accounting standard, or an economic crisis. The difference in the mean, however, is not statistically significant.